Please welcome up Julie.
Well, we've been talking a lot about change and metamorphosis, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, I don't know about change, but I sure get a lot of mistaken identity. All my life, I've been mistaken for something else, from somewhere else, and it really can get quite humorous. Now, none of you know me, so none of you know where I'm from. The first time that I came up to Boston, I was taking this psychology class, and I was with one of my friends, and we would get to talking, and there were a lot of East Texans in the class, with that real Southern twang, and calling out their little tiny towns. And at one point, the professor turned to me, and he was a real good Boston boy, and he's like, I don't get how people can live with this East Texas accent. It's just kind of crazy. And I go, well, you get used to it. And he looks at me for a second. He goes, no. I'm like, oh yes, Houston born and bred. And he looks at my friend and he goes, she's lying. And my friend goes, no, I've been there. That's where she lives. So, between that and for some reason getting called Allison all my life, I guess I look like an Allison. I started to enjoy this kind of mistaken identity, mistaken persona thing. Another thing that I happen to love is I adore languages. I, go out of my way to learn languages. I love to travel, go to other countries. And I have been mistaken for a resident in just about every foreign country that I have gone to. It starts off kind of simple. I took French for many years. I developed a pretty good French accent, and one day I was hanging out with a couple of friends and a couple of their friends, and normally, I know you wouldn't know it to look at me up here, normally I'm kind of a quiet, shy type and I don't say much. So, after most of a day hanging out with these people, the friends of friends hadn't really heard me say much. But one thing they had heard me say was to one of my friends who was there, who was in my French class with me, and he just hated that class. Couldn't stand that class. So what I would do is I would speak French to him constantly. Wouldn't speak a word of English to him. And so somebody had heard me speak French. And of all the odd things, I happened to be wearing that day my father's old golf cap, which apparently looks an awful lot like a beret. So some point later in the day, I said, something random in English, and a friend of a friend turns to me and says, oh, you do speak English? Why, yes. Yes, I do. Later on, I was traveling in France, and I was going with some friends to an internet cafe, and at the internet cafes, they expect everybody coming in to need some English or something because, most of the residents don't go in there a whole lot. And we go in, and the purveyor is speaking English to us, and I'm responding in French because it seems polite. And after a couple of exchanges, he just looks at me and he goes, Vous êtes Canadienne? Non. Vous êtes Française? Non. Mais je suis américaine. Non. Vraiment? Oh yes. Oh yes. A little bit before that, I had been in England studying with a group of other high school students, and it doesn't take as much to get mistaken for an English person. So all I have to do is kind of walk along behind and not worry too much. And this is another of those Texas accent stories. My good friend Sharon, and this is not Sharon, this is Sharon from Levelland, Texas, and she said it that way every time, was running along in front of everybody, chatting and chatting and chatting, bright and loud and funny and smiling and a little East Texan. And she passes by me with a couple other friends, and I'm walking sedately along on my own, kind of just being amused. And I hear this older British couple walking by me going, "Oh my, I've never heard anyone like that before. Wonder what her IQ is," something to that effect. And I just walk right up behind them and I say, "She's really very nice once you get to know her." I have never seen British people so embarrassed, and that's saying something. It gets a little more interesting from here. I spent a summer in Greece. Now, I do not look Greek, do I? Anybody here? Didn't think so. I would never have mistaken myself for that. And I don't know any modern Greek. My modern Greek extends to "good morning" and "one, please." I used to know where's the bathroom. It's been a while. So I was going to a concert with several of my other American friends, and I had gone and bought my ticket ahead of time. You know, walk up to the counter, I said, "Enna," and they said a number, and I gave them some cash, and I got my ticket and my money, and I wandered off. Went in the theater, and some guy looked at me and started jabbering in Greek, and, well, what do I know? So I just kind of looked at him, and he went, "Nah." And I went inside. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and the concert's almost going to start, and my friends, and there are 7 of them at this point, waiting outside. My friends have not shown up. And I wait, and I wait, and finally one of them comes in. And she says to me, "I'm surprised you got in." "Why?" "Well," she says, "because the one of us who actually speaks Greek is currently in a shouting match with the ticket master because they won't let in the Americans." And I said, "Ha! How about that?" And at this precise moment, the woman sitting next to me turns to me and says something in Greek. I don't remember what it was. And I looked at her and I said, "I'm sorry, I don't speak Greek." And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I guess you don't know what's wrong with the air conditioner then." But I think that the best one, and possibly the strangest, was when I was in Japan. I was studying with a Japanese with a Japanese university and staying with a family there. And, you know, this family consisted of my host mother, who was really only about 5 years older than me at the time, and her 2 young sons, one 4 and one 7. And, you know, we would have dinner together and joke around. I'd been taking enough Japanese, I could mostly follow along. And at one point, it was brought up in front of the 4-year-old that I was not Japanese. And Takashi, this little 4-year-old, just looks at his mother and goes, "Of course Judy-chan's Japanese." And both of us start laughing, and his mother goes, No, she's not." And he goes, "But she's speaking Japanese." And I go, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "And you understand Japanese?" And I go, "Yes, I do." And he says, "You're Japanese." So apparently, I'm a woman of many nationalities.